In the United States, Patent and Trademark Office, applicant Cybernet Entertainment, Mark effing machines, examining attorney Michael Engel, amendment and response to office action. This amendment and response to office action is offered in reply to the office action taken regarding serial number 78-680513, the amendment to application. Please delete the current description of goods and services in International Class 41 and replace it with the following: entertainment, instruction, and commentary of an erotic nature, created by and for adults only, presented in images, recorded audio, recorded video, transmitted over the internet, with access limited to adult viewers, excluding any use of the mark other than in media or venues where adult-oriented content is provided. Amendment of specimen. Applicant responds to the examiner's finding that the original specimens were not acceptable by submitting substitute specimen for the mark effing machines. These substitute specimens are attached as composite exhibit A. A declaration in support of this substitute specimen is attached as exhibit B. Response to office action. One man's vulgarity is another man's lyric. The particular online publication that the application seeks to protect, effing machines, with the trademark registration applied for, constitutes protected speech within the meaning of the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. The blanket theme of the reaction is the examiner's statement: effing is an offensive and vulgar reference to the act of sex. The applicant respectfully challenges this characterization of the word effing and its allegedly quote-unquote offensive and vulgar root. F means literally to copulate. Nevertheless, this much maligned four-letter word has no intrinsic meaning. F play a role as a figurative term. For example, to F can also mean to deceive. It is a word of force that can assist us in our expression of joy when used as an infix, as in abso-effing-lutely. F helps us express rage when we scream F you at a football referee or a motorist who has just cut us off in traffic. F can help us express pain, and is it quite frequently the first thing out of most men's mouths when they strike their thumb accidentally with a hammer. F is a vehicle for our disappointment when we see our report card is not as good as we hoped, or when our significant other is late for dinner or leaves us altogether. F is an old friend who can always make us laugh. This girl's fit for a straitjacket. I mean, she effed 3 ways to the weekend. But you know what, Father? I dig it. How many times did we double over in laughter as children when we heard Eddie Murphy call someone a mother effer? If the undersigned is dating himself, then substitute Lenny Bruce, Dave Chappelle, or Carlos Mencia. The bottom line is, if you live in America and you haven't laughed at the word F, you probably have no sense of humor. And you certainly are not in the mainstream. It would be pretty effed up if the most easily offended fringe of society dictated morality for the rest of us. F, if we accept the examiner's initial determination, is an offensive and vulgar reference to the act of sex. However, it can also be a reference to playful sex, used by even the most proper women to describe their favorite pair of shoes as F-me boots, or F me heels. In fact, a search for these terms, with and without hyphens, reveals a staggering number of personal blogs written by young women who brag about their F me shoes. To these women, it appears that F is neither vulgar nor offensive, but empowering. F is, of course, at home in our bedrooms. Many normal, healthy, and happy Americans will gaze at each other with F me eyes. Or, as the movie Wedding Crashers put it, IF each other. Men and women use F to express passion, desire, and even love. When interviewed about her empowering experience with erotic modeling, one model, a feminist and a lesbian, commented that the mood she was searching for was to communicate that thought, love me, F me, I'm beautiful, I'm yours. Perfectly healthy people consider the act of a woman whispering in a partner's ear, I want you to F me, is anything but vulgar. F me, or even F me harder, could hardly be held to be offensive or vulgar when expressed in the spirit of seduction and not in the spirit of insult or degradation. Even if the term were offensive or vulgar, which the applicant denies, these are not standards for reaction under Section 2A. In order to deny registration, the examiner must establish that the mark comprises immoral, deceptive, or scandalous matter. Prior to presentation of the applicant's argument in full, the applicant would like to grant the podium to Justice Harlan, a revered member of the United States Supreme Court, writing for the majority in the landmark Supreme Court case Cohen v. California. Quote, while F, the particular four-letter word being litigated here, is perhaps the more distasteful than most others of its genre, it is nevertheless often true that one man's vulgarity is another man's lyric. End quote. What can better illustrate our profoundly held national value, the ideas that are to be nurtured and protected, than Justice Harlan's tribute to tolerance and moral neutrality? The applicant asks that the examiner understands what is at stake in this seemingly humble case. This is not a case about the word effing so much as it is a case about tolerance, evolution, and expression. With that established, the examiner must step backward from his own feelings about this malign word, step backward from any baggage that it may carry for him, and step into the light, warmth, and beauty of our Constitution and our rule of law. Once the examiner is there, the examiner will agree that it is his duty to reverse his initial determination and to permit the mark to be published for opposition. The examiner's initial determination misinterprets the applicant's intention. Though effing has other meanings, the nature of applicant's services clearly indicate that the sexual meaning of the word was intended. The applicant proposes that the examiner's determination as to the applicant's intent is irrelevant. The use of the word is multi-meaninged, but whether the sexual context was intended has no bearing upon the application nor upon his appeal. Applicant believes that the human body is a thing of beauty to be celebrated. An applicant contends that sexual expression transmits an important message of eroticism, body acceptance, and sexual freedom. Additionally, applicant contends that the female orgasm is frequently ignored in erotica, and that traditional erotica has often displayed women as objects to be used, much like machines, for the sexual gratification of men. Applicant's publication uses machines to bring about the female orgasm in a number of ways, by use of machines specifically designed for this purpose. These machines have the ability to bring formerly non-orgasmic women to the point of sexual ecstasy, and thus release them from lifetime of sexual dissatisfaction and repression. Applicants' publication demonstrates these devices and techniques for the enjoyment and destruction of its subscribers, and its title plays upon the imagery and terms in a purposeful manner. This erotic message has a political component as well as its obvious sensual and instructional components, as the issue of governmental regulation of human sexuality is an ongoing matter of public concern and discourse, as is the suppression of female sexuality. The erotic expression offered by applicant and sought to be protected as a legitimate online publishing business is not intended to be, nor is it obscene, as measured by contemporary community standards. Applicants do not intend this expression to appeal to any prurient interest. Applicant intends its work of expressive art to be expressions of eroticism, instructional, and demonstrative of techniques for the achievement of orgasm. As a statement of criticism toward repressive sexual attitudes, as well as an expression of acceptance of sexual practices that are, while outside the traditionally defined mainstream, are nonetheless enjoyed, experienced, and well within the bounds of the sexual preferences of a significant number of people in the United States and worldwide. Applicants' work communicate a message that challenges the opposite message that is put forth by puritanical and repressive elements of society. Applicants' choices are as much as an act of political resistance as they are work of art and erotica. Applicants' publication challenges outdated, puritanical notions that are rife with the repressive intent of subjugating women by denying them expressions of messages designed to celebrate and affirm the power of female sexuality. Some cultures engage in physical mutilation of girls in order to control the female orgasm, and thus to control women in general. Our culture, while perhaps more refined in its methods, seek a no less ignoble goal. Effing machines is a part of the counterweight to these forces. As a form of protected commercial speech, applicant has a clear legal right to offer or engage in expressive activity of this nature for the purpose of celebration, communication, and socio-politically revolutionary expression. If this challenge to a puritanical mentality towards sexual conduct, expression, and pleasure is threatening to some, this is to be expected. However, this threat should not be misinterpreted as immoral or scandalous. Nor should this heckler's veto be granted to place applicant in his favored state with respect to the benefits the government confers upon the applicant and similarly situated businesses and persons. It has long been held that the government may not treat expression differently because of disagreement with the underlying message. It is a less entrenched but equally controlling legal principle that laws based on morality are no longer permissible absent the government meeting a heavy burden. The examiner will note that the mark must be examined in the context of the current attitudes of the day. See in Mavity Media Group, Thomas Laboratories. It is under the lens of the moral values and mores of contemporary society in which the word must be viewed. It is imperative that the fullest consideration be given to the moral values and conduct which contemporary society has deemed to be appropriate and acceptable. The fact is that when Section 2A was written, it was a different day and age. In 1905, matters of public morality were still reeling from neo-puritanical Victorian influence. The moral values and mores of contemporary society certainly tolerate effing to a great level. In 1971, in Cohen versus California, Mr. Paul Cohen entered the Los Angeles courthouse wearing a jacket emblazoned with the words, "F the draft." His subsequent arrest by the offended police officers led to the determination that F the draft was protected speech, and Mr. Cohen could not be prosecuted for it. Although the rise of F from a word reserved for use in longshoremen taverns and houses of ill repute was already well underway in 1971. Mr. Cohen's case demonstrates that even the highest court in the land, in a far more conservative age, did not consider it to be so scandalous or immoral that he deprived Mr. Cohen of his right to wear this word emblazoned on his jacket in the courthouse. Since then, F has gotten closer and closer to the dinner table, and certainly should no longer be forced to sit outside in the rain. While we all say it, use it, laugh at it, whisper it, and embrace it. In the year 2006, and in fact well before, the fact is, effing cannot be considered to be scandalous or shocking to very many people anywhere. Our president, an avowed born-again Christian, uses F liberally. Oh, folks, by the way, this brief is from 2006, so they are not talking about the current president. And the vice president's use of F is a common butt of late-night comedy. Senator John Kerry said in an interview with Rolling Stone, "Did I expect George Bush to F up as badly as he did? I don't think anybody did." Howard Stern, dogged for years by the FCC and its attempt to impose its unelected board's impression of decency, found himself under constant attack in recent years. As a result, Stern left terrestrial radio for the freedom of satellite radio. Lest examiners point to the number of FCC complaints as an indication that Stern's antics were disfavored by a large number of people, Stern never uttered F on terrestrial radio, and his indecent speech was usually complained of by organized phone banks. Interestingly enough, with Stern's departure, his replacement have seen marked drops in listenership. At the same time, Stern's move to Sirius satellite radio has brought millions of new subscribers to the medium, alongside ubiquitous use of the word F. Lest the examiner begin to believe that Stern or comedians have a monopoly on the word F on satellite radio, the band Buckcherry recently recorded Crazy Bitch, which they did not intend to release as a single. However, once the unedited song and its lyrics, that includes "You're crazy, but I like the way you fuck me," reached XM and Sirius, it became the one of satellite radio's most requested songs. When it comes to entertainment, we could be accurately described as a fuck-tolerant society. Samuel L. Jackson, Joe Pesci, Robert De Niro, and Al Pacino are four of America's most beloved actors, and their gracious use of the word fuck is hardly a cause of national shame. But these quotes have made these actors iconic. And who could possibly live and breathe in America and not be able to identify this iconic scene from Pulp Fiction? Does Marcellus Wallace look like a bitch? What? Shoots Brett in the shoulder. Does he look like a bitch? No! Then why'd you try to fuck him like a bitch, Brett? The movie Casino features the word fuck 398 times in a film that is 178 minutes long, or 2.24 fucks per minute. This isn't the undersigned terminology. See a list of films that most frequently use the word fuck on Wikipedia. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, 248 fucks, 2.38 fucks per minute. Platoon, a mere 159 fucks, or 1.56 fucks per minute. White Man Can't Jump, 141 fucks, and 1.21 fucks per minute. A full list of the films that most frequently use fuck is attached as Exhibit G. This is not limited to the big screen, nor is it limited to male-oriented media. Sex and the City, a critically acclaimed HBO series, uses the word with great artfulness in a post-feminist manner. Quote, "I was once with a guy the size of one of those little miniature golf pencils. I couldn't tell if he was trying to fuck me or erase me." As noted above, women are certainly making empowered usage of the word fuck. See discussion of fuck me shoes. Fuck buddy is an almost exclusively female term for a casual relationship, or what might refer to as a booty call. This brief could go on for thousands of pages, if the undersigned were prepared to burden the examiner with months of reading on the subject. Suffice to say that the examiner should take notice that fuck is accepted, and even beloved. Perhaps if you sent out a survey to your local community asking if they love the word fuck, you might get one opinion, but Americans vote with their wallets. We buy subscriptions to satellite radio by the millions and then request crazy bitch again and again. We spend millions of dollars at the movies, and aside from a very small minority, we don't mind if the word fuck is tossed out with great aplomb. And fuck in a movie certainly never cost anyone an Oscar. Yet nobody is scandalized by women offer friendship, men offer fucking. Even if the mark were immoral or scandalous, this determination should only be made in the context of the marketplace, as applied to goods or services described in the application. Therefore, even if the examiner believes that fuck or fucking is still of such talismanic power that it would shock a substantial portion of the American public, a superstition that should be dispelled above, then the examiner could simply look at the relevant marketplace instead of the marketplace as a whole. This approach is long embraced in trademark law. The in rehearsal. To determine whether the designation is properly refused as scandalous, the mark must be considered in the context of the marketplace as applied to the goods or services described in the application. And this approach is in line with other forms of regulation of expression. For example, in Ginsburg versus New York, the United States Supreme Court affirmed the conviction of a shopkeeper who sold illicit material to a child. However, this case embraced the notion that the marketplace in general, including children, could tolerate a bar on certain types of expression, while the marketplace consisting of only adults would not tolerate such restriction. This very same perspective was embraced by Reno versus ACLU. Quote, "We are persuaded that the CDA lacks the precision that the First Amendment requires when a statute regulates the contents of speech. In order to deny minors access to potentially harmful speech, the CDA effectively suppresses a large amount of speech that adults have a constitutional right to receive and to address to one another. That burden on adult speech is unacceptable if less restrictive alternatives would be at least as effective in achieving the legitimate purpose that the statute was enacted to serve. With this in mind, if the examiner is uncomfortable determining what we have as a nation embraced fuck, then the examiner may narrow the relevant marketplace to either the internet or to the adult internet. In the alternative, if the examiner would like to narrow the study from America in general to simply the American internet user, the examiner will find that fuck is even more accepted on the internet than in the terrestrial world. If we compare the number of Google searches for the following terms, fucking, eating, sleeping, living, and dying, it appears that Americans are most preoccupied with living, but after that, fucking beats out the other essential grounds by placing a strong second in this five-way race. And at one point in January 2006, fucking actually surpassed living. If the examiner does not have the benefit of seeing the graph in color, the lines are listed in top to bottom order with living as the top line and dying at the bottom. Of course, searches for living are not limited to that one term. A user could have searched for Martha Stewart living or living in Chicago and contributed to the search volume, just as one could have searched for fucking aristocrats or fucking brilliant. However, the examiner cannot escape the fact that the word fucking has been typed into the Google search engine more times than eating, sleeping, or dying. Then the applicant will not be incorrect in stating that fucking is not as scandalous or shocking as some may believe, especially not in the internet context. Lest the examiner believes that these queries are out of context, the applicant provides the following: a comparison between fucking and making love. While the Daily Californian asked its readers what the difference is between fucking and making love, and got a number of philosophical responses, an analysis of Google searches shows that we can actually finally quantify this age-old question. Billions of searches. Further evidence of fucking, beating, making love is evidenced by the sheer number of web pages that contain the two terms. There are approximately, back in 2006, 92,700,000 web pages that contain the word fucking, compared to 4,340,000 that contain making love. These do not indicate that we find fucking to be immoral or scandalous anymore. In fact, it seems that we are more uncomfortable with love than fucking. All of the above trends short were limited to United States IP addresses, demonstrated that in contemporary America, we appear to be quite comfortable with fucking. One commentator has even said that fuck is a more commonly used word than mom, baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, and Chevrolet. Given the limitations placed on the relevant channels of trade in the description of goods and services pursuant to the applicant's amendment, the contours of the marketplace should be comfortably demarked, far from any territory where a potential viewer would find the use of the word fucking to be scandalous. As illustrated in the amendment, the applicant's expressive activity is transmitted to a limited marketplace of consumers consisting of a consensual audience all over the age of 18, desirous of receiving and enjoying the message conveyed by works relating to human sexual interest and sensual subtleties. In order to enter the site, the user must agree to all of the following terms. I am at least 18 years of age. I will not redistribute any material from this site. I will not allow any minors to access this site or any material found herein. Any material I download from this site is for my own personal use. I will not show it to a minor. Sexually explicit material depicting bondage, S&M, and other fetish activities is allowed by the local law governing my region. I was not contacted by the suppliers of this material, and I willingly chose to download it. I agree that pictures depicting men or women being... I can't say those words on YouTube. Even if it is a legal brief. Okay. This information is provided for a dual purpose: to demonstrate the fact that the relevant marketplace and channels of trade are constrained by the 8th condition above, hereinafter the 8 conditions, and to demonstrate that this is not a mark that is distributed to a general audience, nor that requires protection outside of the audience and marketplace delineated by the 8 conditions. It is well established that determinations under trademark law hinge upon the definition of the relevant marketplace or channels of trade. To enter the channel of trade for the applicant's goods and services, a potential consumer will have ample fair warning that he or she is about to enter a realm of sexual expression. The relevant marketplace, limited by the description of services, is essentially the red light district of the online media world. In that realm, websites deal with topics in a graphic and often degrading manner. Women are depicted as being used by men, with an entire genre of adult entertainment, bukkake, devoted to images of men. I can't say that on YouTube. This relevant marketplace is a marketplace where scatological humor is found, alongside scatological illicit material. In the relevant marketplace, a search for I can't say that on YouTube brings up almost 400,000 web pages devoted to the subject. The fact is that in the United States, fucking has lost its sting. However, if the examiner narrows the relevant marketplace to the internet, then fucking is certainly an important term. If the relevant marketplace is narrowed further to the world of adult materials, then fucking is downright bland. The Supreme Court held unconstitutional a complete prohibition on the creation of obscene or indecent communication on the grounds that children needed to be protected from hearing such communications. The justification was that this restriction went too far, since it denied adults, the relevant market, access to communication in order to shield the irrelevant market. Based on the above facts, And following the above-cited authority, the examiner should find that fucking is generally accepted as a non-scandalous term. In the alternative, the examiner could find that on the internet, fucking is not a scandalous or immoral term. And as a fallback position, the examiner should find that fucking is neither scandalous nor immoral in the context of the relevant submarket of online adult media. Trade names convey messages about the type, cost, and quality of the product or service associated with the mark. The fact is that trademark propose a commercial transaction. And under long-established Supreme Court precedent, speech that proposes a commercial transaction is commercial speech, and thus subject to First Amendment protection. The trademark is a tightly targeted bit of expressive activity that seeks to persuade a potential customer to choose one product over another, either due to the identification of goods or to the communicative element of the trademark itself. The USPTO's prohibition of scandalous or immoral marks has been harshly criticized. Thus far, all USPTO decisions regarding the constitutionality of Section 2A rely upon the improperly decided case in Re Robert L. McGinley. Even if McGinley were properly decided, it has been superseded by multiple cases that have calcified the previously more amorphous area of commercial speech law and the law surrounding the constitutionality of restrictive law based on morality. McGinley held that since trademark applicants were still free to use the trademarks, then there was no abridgment of speech. However, this reasoning is simply shoddy and unsupported by a vast body of First Amendment jurisprudence. For example, in striking down New York's Son of Sam law, which prohibited criminals from profiting from writing books about their crimes, the Supreme Court held a statute is presumptively inconsistent with the First Amendment if it imposes the financial burden on speakers because of the content of their speech. The authors were still free to write, but were denied the financial benefits of their labors. This appears to completely dispense with the McGinley reasoning. In Bad Frog Brewery versus New York State's Liquor Authority, analyzed a similar issue. In that case, the appellant sought to use a trademark of a frog giving the finger to any and all passerby on bottles of liquor. The Second Circuit held that since trademarks are commercial speech, prohibition on use of so-called offensive trademarks did not advance the stated governmental purpose of protecting children from vulgarity or promoting temperance, nor was it narrowly tailored to serve that purpose. Finally, there can be no clearer authority for the death of Section 2A than Lawrence v. Texas. Quote, "The fact a state's governing majority has traditionally viewed a particular practice as immoral is not a sufficient reason for upholding a law prohibiting the practice." Morality is no longer a valid reason to confer or deny a governmental benefit. Instead, the government must articulate a reason why registration of fucking machines might be harmful, and then apply that reason to the particular circumstances at hand in a narrow manner. The government has done none of this in this case, nor in any other 2A denial. Should the examiner, after reviewing the facts and legal arguments set forth above, still determine that fucking machines is unsuitable for a principal register, the applicant requests that the examiner grant the alternative relief of listing this mark on the supplemental register as provided for in 15 U.S.C. 1091, 37 CFR 247 and 275A, TMAP 80102B, 815, and 816 at sequence. Conclusion. For the reasons set forth above, applicant holds the position that the proposed mark, fucking machine, is not scandalous nor immoral. In the alternative, the mark is not scandalous or immoral to the relevant marketplace, which is, further alternatively, either the internet or the adult-oriented portion of the internet. The applicant respectfully requests that the applicant's mark proceed to register on the principal register or in the alternative on the supplemental register. For Western Garou, DeWitt and Walters, Mark J. Randazza. and Lawrence G. Walters, attorneys for applicant. Thank you for listening in. That was the legendary fuck brief. Unless you have to go clean your ears, you all have a good one, and I will see you all in the next stream or video. Bye-bye.